Somebody has like as a noisy background. Okay. So everyone hears me well, right? So what we're going to do is, what is the background? So let's go over PowerPoint, a few slides of PowerPoint, and then we'll get into, I promise that I'm going to review your homework hands-on questions also. So let's just do slideshow first. Okay. So this class will be doing a few more business data models or ER entity relationship diagrams. And then we'll get into so-called forward engineering. So basically translate business data model into logical data models. Okay, so for that, we basically need to remember a bunch of formulas, how do we do it. First of all, just simple review. We said that database is a set of records well organized by using a particular logical data model. And in a database, records is just a record is just simply an array of observations made on one object. All right. So records are the basic unit of storage in the database, not individual data items. Okay. And then relational data models basically organize records, stack records into tables. And each table consists of columns and fields and rows. Okay. And we learned the three terminologies using in different settings. And then the relational model, we basically just use primary key sharing, duplicating primary key values to connect different records from different tables. So unlike network model, hierarchical model, which use pointers, relational model does not use pointers. All right. And then we also define the concept of primary key and foreign keys. Okay, primary key is just ID for each field, for each record. And the foreign key is that duplicated primary key is a foreign key. Okay. And then we talk about how to develop database. Okay, so basically three-step process. First, you create a business data model to capture business data requirements. And then you're going to convert the business data requirements at the business data model into logical data model. So logical data model, you can just imagine is like a blueprint or specification of database to be developed. And finally, you're using programming language like SQL to program database. So based on the logical data model you just created. Okay. All right. So in business data modeling, we spent pretty much last class, Friday's class, talking about how to do business data modeling. So let me just review that also. So that boils down to three activities. The first thing is to identify objects, business objects. Okay. So business objects can be, concept, or can be just things that we can see, we can touch. All right. And attributes just data of those objects. So you need to say, you need to pick up only relevant data to be recorded, to be observed. Okay. And the data attributes must be single valued, right? And also attributes must be not foreign. It should be native to the object itself. Make sense? So for example, we talk about orders, or the shipment, ship ID, ship date should not be attributes for orders because we already have objects called shipment, right? And then identify relationships. That is actually the most difficult part for beginners, okay? So what I'm asking you to do is when you say these two objects should be related, then you have to think of verb describing the relationship. That is basically the nature of the relationship, okay? If you cannot think of a verb to describe a relationship, for example, in your homework this time, you have three objects. I believe everybody identified that correctly. That is books, authors, and the publishers, right? And then I say some students connecting authors with publishers, and then I challenge them. What's the verb describing the relationship? What is the verb describing the relationship between authors and the publishers? Okay, so if you cannot think of verb, then think of a verb, then probably there's no such relation. All right, so if you can say maybe authors work for publishers. If that's the case, okay, then yes, that's relationship. However, authors cannot work for publishers. Okay, authors just like you right? Publishers, they are publishing books, right? Authors write the books, and then we send the books to publisher for the review, for the evaluation, and then accepted, and the contact. Right? So we do not have any relationship with publishers, formally. Make sense? So that is just kind of like a way to check to say whether two relationship you're trying to establish are legitimate or not. Okay. And also relationship also you reflect business rules. Okay, so basically, in the business we have situation that we have one record, do we really navigate on the data? Yes, and there should be a relationship. Okay. And we also said if data on action words are needed. So for example, we talk about customer purchase products. Customer purchase products. We need information about customers. We need information about products. What about the purchase? We need also need data on that. Yes. We need data on the right, all the credit rates, we need all those kind of things. So therefore, in that case, action words or purchase will be turned into relations, or will be turned into objects too. Okay, so let me use a few more examples to illustrate that forward. Okay, so the first example: employees and management accounts. Did you connect employees with accounts directly? What does it mean by employee and management accounts? You can think of the employees as sort of like opening accounts, closing account, or conducting transactions with account, then we need the data on that transaction. Right? So in that sense, we do not directly connect employees with account. Instead, it's a transaction with employees. Does that make sense, everyone? So for example, in transaction, we call data and say what kind of transaction is it? What kind of management is it? Is it trying to open an account or closing an account or some other types? Okay, so a transaction and object is basically just like a recording data on action. All right. So customer buy products, the same thing. So we should connect, customer with the purchase or order, and then purchase connecting to products instead of directly connecting customers with products. Okay. Now, what about students resolve proofs? Students resolve proofs. They need data on reservations? Yes, of course. Right? So what are your limited reservation and what's the priority for the reservation or that data should be kept in the reservation. So we should have data on resolve action. Right? So you have data on student, and data on reservation, and then data on books. By the way, books. We have two kinds of book objects in library. One is template, booklet, and the book title. Okay, which has like the title, ISBN number, pages, author, object. But then there is also object which is of the heading, book copies. Make sense? And these two are not same thing. Okay, so usually this is a very common example in many situations. Let me see whether I can use this whiteboard to give you a few more examples on that. So we have book, which is title. And then we have book copy. Okay, so this relationship is typically handled as like each title may have multiple copies, so you may have some kind of relationship like that. Okay, so you draw entities like that, right? Okay, and besides that, each book will be identified partially like book copy 1, copy 2, all that, and then copy 1, copy 2 will not be unique to the book copy. So it also includes that you also need like ISBN number to be for the book copy. Does that make sense? Okay, so we try to use few examples to explain how people can understand. So basically, if you have a book copy, you know, let's say for the library or book, each time they have multiple copies, right? And they will have an ID like copy 1, copy 2, right? But this copy 1, copy 2 is identifying the book relative to the book title. Okay? So without the book title, the book copy 1, copy 2 will not be identified the book copy because different titles will have also copy 1, copy 2. Make sense? So this is a very special kind of situation, and we represent that. Say basically that this is like a weak entity, weak objects, and then we put like a little bar in here, indicate that that's a weak. That's a weak entity, weak object. So why weak? Weak means that if you destroy the copy, if you get rid of the title, then your library, your database should not have those copy records. The full copy records. Okay, the full copy record depends on the title that exists. Make sense? So now let me give you more examples to understand that. All right. So let's say flight, and then actual scheduled flight. Scheduled flight. They also have similar relationship. So flight is more like a catalog. So when you get a catalog from airlines, they will tell you that we have flights every Monday, Tuesday from Akron to New York, right? But when you book a flight, you're not booking that catalog. You're booking actual scheduled flight. For example, Monday, today is Monday, right? So they will have flight today, which is scheduled. So then you can book today's scheduled flight. Okay, tomorrow there's another flight. You can book against that too, right? Make sense? So you'll have a general catalog entry, and then out of that catalog is the actual flights. Make sense? Everyone? Okay. So again, this is relationship. This is, you can think of that as also same kind of relationship as the weak entity. Okay. More examples. Now, that is very familiar to us, course and sections. So course is catalog entry. So for example, 324, right? Database management, 3 credit hours, you have description. That is course entry, catalog entry. Right? But the section you are attending is offered at this time, this year, ordered by this professor, and offered in this room. That's a section, right? So on the music course, we have multiple sections, right? So different years, different time, maybe of a week, then we have this, different section to be offered on the same course, right? So again, course is catalog entry. The access sections is more like a concrete item, scheduled one. So that is weak entity too. All right. So I'm going to stop here. There are many situations like that. So we have confusing objects names, okay? Course, so we will say take a course, which course of this section, okay? And we'll say you take a flight. Which flight you take? Resolve flight. Which flight you resolve? You resolve also that schedule flight, right? You check out the books. You actually check out the book, right? You resolve book. You resolve book title. But we're not resolving book topics. Make sense? So let me go back to PowerPoint. Let me show from current slide. Okay. So we have an example that, customer buy products, student resolve books. So in that case, we should have student resolve and the book title. But then we say student check out books, then we actually have checkout. The checkout is also action. We need to have data on that too, right? The checkout date, right? And also there is some other actions like who did checkout, right? And then which place did checkout, and then what's due date, all that will be assigned to the checkout. Okay. So then again, we have data on checkout. So then you should have a relationship with the student to checkout and then to book copy. So in this case, we need to check out book copies. All right. So again, what if a doctor prescribe a test? So when you go to doctor's office, doctor gives you say you do this test, right? So test is also a concept that could have different meanings. You can have a catalog test. So for example, X-ray test, blood pressure test, and are just like catalog entries. But then the doctor will give you a prescription of test, which is the after test that you perform on you. And a particular day and you have to go. Right? So these are two different tests. So again, in this case, how do you handle the doctor's prescribed test? So you're going to say doctor, and then after test. After test data, you need to have after test data, right? And then the catalog test. So basically, it's going to be like a weak entity too. This after test is going to be weak entity of catalog test. Okay. All right. So what about student, professor teach students? Professor teach students. Should we connect directly to professor? The students and the class and the professor and the student. It's actually should have class meeting, right? The class meeting, right? So basically, teaching and action, we have the action. Okay, so that is class or section. Okay. Now, what about professor or advise students? Advise students. For that, we really do not need to take care of the action of advising. And only we need to know that which professor is assigned to advise which student. So in that case, we can directly connect students with advisor. Okay, and I'm going to leave last two for you to think. Customer wish list products. Do you understand that? So if you go to Amazon, you say, these customers have I want this wish list this product, products, right? And occasionally, customers can also rate products, right? So I want this product. So forth, so if that's the case, okay, how do you represent, how do you go into this data, ratings and wish list data in the database? Okay, so think about that. All right, so this is just like it's not really completely reviewed, but it's kind of more in depth of identifying relationships. And as I said, relationship is not easy for beginners. Okay. And then also we talk about the cardinalities. Okay, quantify. Yeah, question. Last one.
So if you draw a diagram of the professor object and student object, you have to draw the one from professor.
Okay. So basically, just define which one's the beginning, which one's the ending of it, and then we define it. You make your example. All right, so cardinality is just simply quantifying how many objects at the other end will correspond to current object. Okay, so for example, a patient can have multiple appointments, right? Okay, a patient in general can have multiple appointments, but each appointment is only for one patient. Make sense? So in that sense, the cardinality should be one on the patient side and many for appointment, because one patient can have many appointments, and one appointment is corresponding to only one patient. So therefore, it's one to many. Okay. And what about optionality? Optionality just tell whether object is optional in having a relationship with object. Okay. So for example, patient and appointment. Does every patient have to have an appointment? Not necessarily. Okay, so all patient side is okay. But what if you have appointment? Does appointment must have a patient? Yes, of course. So the appointment side is managed. Does it make sense? So that is what optionality is about. Okay, so the last class, last presentation, when we jump into like a data model, there are a few slides about so-called case, computer-aided software engineering tools. So there's one, I think how many slides? Maybe just one slide. I forgot. Okay, so this is what about the basically case stand for computer-aided software engineering tool. So in our class, we are using case tool to draw models. Okay, so because we have a business data model and logic data model. So basically, case can be classified into two categories. Uppercase is basically drawing business data model. Lowercase support drawing logic data model. Okay, so there's also integrated case, which is more expensive ones. Okay, integrated case allow you to draw both models, business data model and the logic data model, and also allows you to do conversions. So, for example, after you have business data model, you can use the integrated case convert business data model into logic data model. Okay, integrated into logic data model. And one more step, after you have logic data model, the integrated case can also write a code, write SQL code, and then actually implement the logic data model in the database. So that is called a forward engineering from concept data model to database. And then you can also do reverse engineering. You can say you have a data object database. Okay, you can reverse the object database into logic data model. And then reverse logic data model into business data model. So sort of like in the sense that when somebody gives you like a program or code, you crack it. You crack find object code in the program. Okay, so you can think that's cracking or hacking or whatever. Okay, however, for reverse engineering, we are not considering reverse engineering case tool to crack an object database. We are trying to save time for building data model. So when you are actually going to say build a data model to capture different requirements, the common way, the most expensive way is to use the user. What data can you, what kind of objects you want, okay? But you understand that users are very busy. Okay, they cannot spend a lot of time on here. So the company already have existing database which already capture abundance of the data, abundance of knowledge about the different requirements. Why not we can take advantage of the existing database to capture this existing data requirement? And then after that, we get business data model, and then we can do the modifications. So we make all of that and add the changes at the end, and then make the changes after that. We can finalize and improve business data model. And move forward, okay. So again, forwarding this integrated case will help us to save a lot of time when building this business data models. All right, and we did.
Professor.
Yeah.
So when you step away from your computer, it's really hard to hear you. So is there a chance you could stay near your computer?
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. So the moment you step away, it gets you just can't hear anything.
Okay, let me just do that. Can you hear me well?
See, from there, I can't really understand you.
Oh, cannot? Oh. So, what's happening? Okay, so if I stay in front of my computer, will be okay. So now it's okay, everyone?
Yeah, right now it's really good.
Okay. So I'll try to remember that. All right, so this is an example we did last class. We basically deal with banking systems. In that case, we have objects like customers, account, employee, transaction. We did a transaction, but not employee, I believe, right? So we also did a bunch of attributes. Okay. So this is the ER diagram we did in last class. Now let's try to do your homework questions. Your homework, you have a professor wants to keep data on his books, publishers, and authors, so that whenever he has comments, he can communicate with authors using US mail or email. All right. So first of all, we identify the business objects in this case, including books, authors, and the publishers. Right. So that will not be a problem. Right. So what about the attributes? What attributes we need? So you mentioned that US mail. US mail means what? Communication using US mail means you're going to use mailing address, right? Mailing address, of course, you need to have like a street address, city, state, zip code, because US address is more like a composite attribute, so you need to split that. Phone and email will be two separate attributes. He also like to have data about the publisher because he may need to go to the company's website. So you need a web address for publisher, and call the company to look for more information. So that means you need information about phone numbers for the publishers. So those basically just give you further descriptions on attributes. All right, so let me try to use what is that data modeler? It's open data modeler, okay? Data modeler to draw that quickly. Just in case you're still not very comfortable with data modeler, this will be your last opportunity to catch up. So first of all, I need to go to, okay. So everyone can see me, right? Online people, you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I need to create a sub-view first. Okay, let's just open up existing ones. We already have one we created last class, so let's open that. So instead of creating different models, different projects for every class. So last one we did homework one, I think not homework one. Was homework one? Oh, I think I put in the homework one, but actually it was not homework, it was bank. So let's open that. So this is the model. No, this is not the right one. So which one do we do? We do last class? Let me do it again. Let's see. Desktop. And my first example, that's not it. This is Visual Studio. So this is kind of strange. I think this. Okay. Anyway, let me just use this one, and I'll come back to this one. Okay. So new sub view first, and then we're going to use new entity. Create entity here. So first one, let's say publisher. Publisher. Okay. So publisher, we can have a short name, POB, and now we need to have attributes. So attribute, of course, we need a company name. Company name. So that basically publisher name, right? Publisher name should be unique, should be a describing publisher name. Okay. So I will use char, and then how many chars? Let's say 25 characters. Okay, and then it should be primary, right? Because we are using name to identify the publishers. Or you can create the publisher ID, that's fine too. Apply. And then the next thing we want is we need like a web address, right? So web address, and that would be char2. And then let's just say how many letters? Let's just make 100 chars, 100 chars. And that may be mandatory or maybe optional. Not all publishers have a website, then we'll just leave it optional. All right. And then you need a phone. Phone typically is characters, and the 14 characters, including those dashes. And then let's say phone is required, and that is all we need for publishers. And then we have author. Okay, let's just say AUTH. For authors, attributes include author ID. And for that, I will just use char characters. How many? Maybe 7 characters. And that is the primary ID, is describing, that's identifying attribute. Stop me if you have questions, okay? Otherwise, I'll move on. And then we have a last name. Chang, make 45 characters. Okay, and then there's the last name is required. Right. Then let's have to the first name. First name is Chang, also 45 characters, and Chang. And then that's just that's optional. And then we have to have a US address for authors, okay? Because the professor need to communicate with them. So that will include a street address. So for street address, I will use Chang, and maybe 50 characters. Okay, is that required or optional? Maybe we can just leave it optional. Maybe we may not be able to get all the authors address. City is Chang, and let's say 25 characters, and let's say also optional. And then state, we could use domain, but we can use Chang here. Chang, let's say 2 characters, so assuming it's US. So let's also make it optional. And then zip code, Chang, and then let's say 10 characters. Okay, and then 10, optional. What else? It also says email and the phone, right? So we need a phone and email. Email, so email address, Chang, how many? I'll make it 50 characters. That's optional. And then finally, phone number. Okay, so a bunch of things, just attributes. Let's say 14 characters. And then this is Chang. Okay, apply. There we go. So we have our authors. And then let's do books. Book. The book has, let's just show the name BK. Book has attribute like a standard attribute like ISBN number, ISBN, and that is characters. And how many characters? I don't know how many. And then let's say there's a primary ID. And then let's say book title. So book title probably is Richard. But we need a lot of characters, maybe 100. Okay, and then that is required mandatory. And let's say the book may also have a price. Okay, so let's just say the price of the book is numeric. And assuming the book have up to like a few $100, so we will use 5,2. So that means a book can have up to $999.99 at max. Okay. What else for the book? Let's just put one more here. Let's say book abstract. Book abstract. Okay. So abstract is it's pretty long, so I'm going to use vocab. Okay, variable char. So variable char basically allow you to have a limit of say certain size, like say 4,000 characters. However, if you do not use 4,000, the remaining space can actually be saved by database for other data. Okay, so that is really useful for a field that has a wide range of lengths. So abstract, some abstract maybe just a few letters, few words, right? Some abstract maybe a few hundred words. So in that case, you have only very short abstract, and you can save a lot of space. Make sense? Okay. So there we go, and then we save. Okay. And now finally, relationship. Okay, let's just do that quickly. So basically, relationship here is authors write books, so we should have relationship between that. So authors write books. Okay. So let's say write. And then if you look at it, the author can write many books, and a book may have many authors, so the cardinality is many to many. Okay, and then what about optionality? Does every author have to does every author write a book? No, that's not necessary, so this is optional. But if you have book, do you have to have author? If you have book, does the book have to have author? Yes. So this is not optional. This is required. Okay, that's okay. That's one. And then we have publish or publish books. So we can do another relationship here. And then just do here, connect the letter to. Okay, publish. Publish. So what's the relationship? One publisher can publish many books, right? One publisher can publish many books. And then the book is published by one and only one publisher. So the relationship should be one. The cardinality should be one here. Okay. A publisher may or may not have publish any books. So we have the new publisher just coming out. Okay. So the publisher may not have any books yet. So in that case, publisher is optional. But a book, if you have a book, then a book will be definitely published by a publisher. So that would be required. Okay, that's okay. And now we have a relationship like that. Okay. All right. So this is your so this is the place I really prefer 75 minutes instead of 50 minutes. Orange, and it's a soft orange. So anyway, we'll stop here and I will continue on Wednesday for the rest of the lectures. Questions, last minute questions? No? All right. So see you everyone.
I had a quick question, Professor.
Yeah.
I was the one who emailed you about meeting with you with your office hours after this class.
Yeah.
Are you in the CBA building right now?
I'm in CBA, yes. I'm in CBA. My office is 3360.
360 is the room number?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are
So
you
I'm actually
are you
yeah,
coming?
I'll be there shortly.
You'll be sure. Okay, sure.
All right, I'll see you soon. Thank you. 360.
360. All right, see you everyone.
Thank you.